Good morning, everyone. Happy second week of Diamond Heart Project. Great to be here with you and this beautiful practice and this gathering and this beautiful work we're doing together. So thank you for the opportunity to present some information for you for the teaching today and just be with you for a moment. I was having a beautiful conversation yesterday with a colleague who's been doing this work for many decades, and his lineage comes from Mayan ancestors, and his lineage, not just his blood lineage, is Mayan. And so at a young age, his family took him to return down to the Mayan technologies and the Mayan temples and all the things in South America, and he had the ability to have a recalibration or reconnection to this lineage of himself as a child. And he talks about how the different teachings of the Mayan technologies were all about connecting to the information or the intelligence of the heart space. And it's really no different than what we're doing now in the Diamond Heart Project. And it just was a beautiful reminder and confirmation that this has been the way for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Even to the great civilizations before the one we are today. This has been the most important factor in how we navigated life as this human experience, was through the intelligence of our heart. And so it was really in-depth conversation we got to have yesterday and move forward with that. Maybe some of you do or don't know, but we're working on a project right now called Spiritual Surfers around interviewing people or connecting with people from all around the world that have these ancient lineages or practices, and beginning to really kind of open up conversation around these different practices we've done for thousands of years around activating the inner wisdom of ourself through tribal work, personal preference, religious beliefs, like all these different ways around what people connected to source through their practices, and we begin to kind of bring some of those practices to light into the world and give people some options to do different things besides just what that's taught in society. So more to come on that one. Anyways, welcome to week 2. Today we're talking about the chakra meditation or the chakra system, including sacred space and power ritual, and why those things kind of go together, as well as how they work with the evolution of our being and how they impact how we do our practices. No, there's no right or wrong way to do it, but it's going to give you some framework to kind of begin to build this foundation of our practices, and whatever practices resonate with you or work for you. Getting the foundation of a sacred space or a certain ritualistic way you walk into them or walk out of them is really potent. And so we're just going to help you design or create that kind of practice for yourself today. In the chakra meditation I had on Monday, I kind of went into the chakra system around how it evolves in the body. There's 7 that we reference a lot in the yogic lineage, but just know there's 13 actually in the channel vertical of our system. There's over 170 chakras in the body in general, these energy portals. We're not talking about all of that. We're just going to capture the 7 basic ones today that are really like that's the plug. It's kind of like the plug. I have these holiday lights still up that are really beautiful and white, so they just really feel nice to keep them up. But there's a plug that goes in the wall, and then it reaches out to the strands of lights all along the beam. And the plug that goes in the wall is like the 7 chakras. The other 170 we have all different places is like all the different lights or LEDs on the strand of Christmas lights or holiday lights. So it's kind of like if you have the information around the 7 plug-in, then it will be a little more easy to adapt the rest of the ones in the system. And again, if you have more questions on this, bring it to the integration talk on Sunday. But either way, just know that the vibration of these chakras, everything about our being is made of 2 things. One is light and one is sound. They're really the same thing, but it's a whole other conversation. But the point is, it isn't so much of these colors in that chakra, it's the vibration of light in that chakra looks red, or looks orange, or looks blue, or looks green. And so we can use this imagery of these colors to kind of activate this space and open it up and either bring some more light to it or more clarity to it. But also know that our auric field is about 6 feet in diameter all around us. And this auric field contains your emotional body, mental body, energetic body, and physical body. And in the total being practice we've been talking about since last week, it's about bringing those 4 bodies into alignment, and more importantly, into a balance with each other. And so we do that by the core of the chakras, allowing the bodies to come into alignment. And so yes, and so these chakras impact all 4 of those bodies of our being, and I'm going to kind of go through the stats of what those chakras are about. There's so much more deeper information on these chakras that you can find in books or online, but the point is I'm just going to recap them in a quick summary so you have a deeper understanding around them. So the root chakra down has to do down below, roughly in the top of our inner thighs, below the private parts. This is not really a physical space, it's more like an energetic space here. This chakra has to do with the ability to feel safe, to feel supported, to feel grounded. A lot of us are present here in life, but not all of us are fully grounded, whether we've had past lives of being burnt at the stake or put on a cross or stoned to death, or wasn't a very pleasant experience. Sometimes that limits us from fully coming into our body in this life. And so we can work on that grounding cord through the root chakra. And so this is where this space is. And so the color that resonates here is mostly like a shade of red, whatever that shade of color for you. When I reference these colors, whatever shade resonates with you, whether you like pastel colors or fluorescent colors or bright colors or soft colors, like, it's all great. It just know that the vibration of light looks like those colors in this space. Second chakra has to do with your sacral area. This has to do with your creativity. As long as you reference is more of the sexual chakra. But the reason being, it has nothing to do with the intimacy or tantric work. It has to do more with, this is where your creative juice flows. We can create life from this space. It's the most potent space of creativity, but you can also create anything else. So you can redirect, or you can direct that creative energy into creating a poem, a dance, a business, an idea, whatever you want to create. But the creative energy you want to tap into is in this sacral area. That's where your most potent creative energy resides. And the color here is orange. And so that's for that space. Your third chakra has to do with your solar plexus. This is what they say where your soul sits. This is where your purpose resides. This is where the core of your being comes from, this space. And the color here is yellow. Whatever shade of yellow resonates with you, everything from mustard yellow to fluorescent yellow to whatever shade of yellow resonates. But that's what this color is here. Fourth chakra has to do with your heart, and this is where you give and receive love, like self-love and self-care, as well as receive love and care. Mostly all self-love, self-care, but the point is, like, it's all about the heart space, and so the color here is green. Your fifth chakra has to do with speaking your truth, and that has to do with right through here, not just about speaking the truth, but also hearing your truth. It's all in this vicinity, and we're given 2 ears and 1 mouth, so it tells me we should be listening twice as much as speaking. Either way, the color here is blue, whatever resonates with you. Bright blue, sea blue, baby blue, whatever color resonates with you, but the color here is blue for speaking your truth and hearing your truth. And then you have your third eye, or your sixth chakra. This is the space of where you receive information, or you have an interpretation of the intelligence or the information that comes through your heart is translated into the space of the third eye, so you can begin to translate into the language you understand, right? Because Source talks to you through frequency or vibration, and then your heart takes that information that it receives and it translates into the third eye, and your third eye translates into like the language you understand, or into the understanding of like, oh, this is my grandmother speaking to me, or this is how you translate the information into a context of understanding for the brain through your third eye. And so whether you want to call this your third eye or the pineal gland, pituitary gland, all these ways of how this like interconnection with the DMT gets released as well. So the third eye here. And so that color is lavender or indigo or purple, or whatever one resonates with you when it comes to you. Then you have the crown. So the crown chakra, this chakra is more of a vertical. This is a white light or gold, like I have the copper above me. Or a rose gold is also beautiful in that space. So whatever you choose or whatever you begin to imagine as you drop into your practice to activate this space. But again, this chakra is more vertical through the body. The other ones are more lateral through the system. And so the back of the body is where you receive the gifts of those chakras, and everything moves in a spiral formation. So the back of the chakras spin in a counterclockwise formation to kind of pull the energy in, and the front of your body spins in a clockwise formation to pull the energy through and out. So if you ever feel like there's a misalignment or a realignment needs to happen in your chakras, you can imagine like them spinning counterclockwise from the back to pull the energy in, and imagine the clockwise formation through the front as it pulls it through and expresses it out. So many ways of adjusting, and as you get deeper into connection of maybe through chakra meditations or deeper connection with yourself, you might feel when there's an imbalance or when things need to be opened or more expansive, or when chakras are more dominant than others. You can drop into this practice of meditation with chakras and either expand them, amplify them, turn them down, like whatever you feel you need to do to balance them out as you get more in tune with yourself, to work with them. And so there's that. And we can talk more on the integration call around chakras and how they work in the system, but bring your questions, and it's always a fun topic to dive into. The other basic or priority of today was talk about sacred space and how important that is. Sacred space can be anything for you, but this is where it doesn't have to be where you do your practices all the time, but have a sacred space in your house that's kind of holding a container for you. You've all been to the gatherings or ceremonies I've offered or retreats, and you know that it's very important in creating a sacred space, and that space holds you in a really beautiful way. It also allows, if you come in from work, from a challenging conversation with a coworker, or a conflictual conversation with a family member or a lover or the neighbor, the point is that you can walk into your sacred space, the area where you practice, and your system will automatically begin to shift because you walk into the frequency or the container of your sacred space, and it will begin to know not to bring that into it, or begin to recalibrate yourself so you can adjust as you walk into this frequency of the space you're holding in your sacred area. It doesn't have to be a big altar with all these things. It can be a crystal on a windowsill. It can be a corner in the room. It can be anywhere that you really feel called to practice in, and it doesn't have to be where you go every time, but the point is something that's kind of like holding an anchor, whether it be in your home or a private space or a back room or outside in the yard or the garden, wherever it is, but being able to build a sacred space that you kind of go to for when you do your practices. And you'll notice that as you do your practices, over the course of time, that continuation, what I can see of doing your practice in that area or at that altar or whatever it is, begin to build this really strong bubble of energy that holds you whenever you walk into that space. And it's really beautiful. And there's no right or wrong way to build a sacred space. It really resonates with you, but however you want to choose to do it, don't have to do a lot. You can just have something where you light the incense or where you light a candle or whatever it is. But have an area that you dedicate. That's where you go. Do I meditate at my altar every day or every time? No. There are times I do it on a yoga mat overlooking the beach. There are times I do it other places as well. But the point is I have this space, next to my bed where my altar is, and it's where my foundation of it is. But it's not where I always go. And so, but it's there, and it holds me really well any moment, kind of rolling into power ritual from sacred space. They really go together. But know that power ritual, again, you've experienced the different offerings, the ceremonies and retreats and gatherings, and you witnessed there's a certain way that whatever we're doing, I walk into these gatherings, whether it be lighting a candle, and then I light incense, and then we sit down and we do breath work, and then we do the prayer, and we do the agua de florida. There's a certain way that I walk into, and whether you're there or not, I do it the same way. If I'm just sitting at my practice or at my altar by myself, dropping into my meditation practice, I do the exact same thing. So again, whether I'm in a room of 20 people, 2, or by myself, it's the same way that I walk into the practice. There's a ritualistic way that I do it. That's the way I'm guided to do it. Doesn't mean that's the way you have to do it. But the point is, I would suggest you begin to build some kind of ritualistic practice of how you walk into it. Go to yoga class. Yoga instructor always opens the class the same way. there's something about that, whether they know they're doing it or not, but there's a ritualistic way of how they walk into it. Now, the ritual can be anything you choose to do. Like I said, you can always light a candle. You can always light incense. You can do your breath work. You can do a certain prayer. You can ring a certain bell. However you choose to do it, I'm just referencing things that I do. But the point is, like, walking into it, and your system will begin to know, oh, when you do this, we do that. And there's like this activation that happens. You know, like even with Kambo, when I begin to like drink that water in Kambo, my body's like, oh, I know what you're doing because you've done this for 8 years. And so when you drink that water, we know that's going to happen. So my system begins to calibrate for that process. And so same thing, whether, you know, I lived in LA for 10 years, I would drop off sometimes and meditate at a park in the afternoon. But when I would sit in the park and do my breath work and have my little bell or whatever I was doing, might not have been in front of my altar, but when I begin to walk into my practice the way I always do, no matter if I'm in a park or at my altar in my home, my system's like, oh, I know what you're about to do, and things begin to recalibrate or calibrate to prepare for that practice. And it's because of the power of the ritual walking into it. So, again, the ritual can be whatever you want to do. It doesn't have to be the way that I do it. It can be whatever calls to you, but I would begin to discover more ritualistic behavior or practices of how you walk into your stuff or how you walk into your practices. And that begins to really build this foundation as you begin to build these, as we build this sacred practice, these sacred practices that work for you. So if you have more questions on what rituals can be, there's no right or wrong ritual. It's whatever calls to you, but begin to do it as you walk into your practice every time. And you'll begin to notice that you'll drop deeper into your practice quickly because your system is like, oh, I'm recognizing what you're doing because every time we do that, this happens, or we do this, and it begins to really settle into the practice. So just know that's there. So I've answered some questions for you, and we can talk more on the integration talk on Sunday. And thank you all for listening to this, and just a blessing to see you all. Blessings of your day.